You might be lost in the face of tragedy and have your motivation to empower yourself and your local community gone. There's restlessness, and you might be tired and wired, but there's nowhere to go. And when we're deep fried like that, it's best to reduce the complexity as much as we can, reduce the overwhelm as much as we can. That at least gets us moving towards a safer place while meeting our goals. So it's not the time for overcomplicated theories, no matter how well they work. Simplicity gets us moving, even if it's as simple as reminding ourselves which direction we need to head and where our pack is. A little nature metaphor. I'm here only giving you the direction and the pack. The steps you take after this complexity, or after you get to complexity, when you feel safe, that's up to you. The steps you take after what I give you are your own. I'm just giving you a basic framework for when you feel overwhelmed in the face of whatever, in the face of tragedy, in the face of your parents doing bad things, in the face of people near you being unable to carry your pain. This is empowerment for yourself and for your others in those complex times. And it's ones I use even when I have low motivation, energy, and time. And it's what got me from being over medicated and underhelped to a place where I have more autonomy to take care of the people that live with me and to get back on my exercise routine and study and actually finish a book for once, because there was a stretch of time for like 10 years where I could not finish a book. And this is how I clawed myself out of that. It's not deep or complex. There's not 101 questions you need to answer. It's more of a simple reframe that we can remind ourselves when things get hard, and sometimes they stay hard for a while, and we still want to work on ourselves and help others. We don't want to just seclude and turn into a monk for that time. And it's with that competence I told you that I wrote this piece, and I'm going to share bits of my journey where you might get stopped or where things wouldn't work, and it may not make sense at first. That's okay. This sort of immersion, it's like the last words will open up this first opening paragraph, and the frame is you'll get a short map, two frameworks on self empowerment and one on the other empowerments, and then the short essay on how I've implemented it throughout my life. So thanks for coming with me on this journey of building my skills. And I wish that we all have a good journey in just practicing skills. So the personal journey map of meeting my needs in community care. My parents gave me skills to meet my needs and to meet the needs of the community that I was raised in. So it included Christianity skills, generational trauma from being Puerto Rican, and cultural practices. And I threw them all away after I turned into an adolescent, trying to figure out who I was separate from my family, as we all do. And I felt the pain where I couldn't quite adequately meet my own needs, and I didn't have that community I had. So I used other skills from the monoculture or from gaining addictions. I found people to drink with, and I almost died and lost all my friends. And I blame society, parents, God for my issues. There's always someone to blame. I changed how I met my needs, and I used spiritual technologies from like India, China, and my indigenous ancestry to do that. I changed how I related to people using ethics from psychology, womanism, feminism, and my indigenous ancestry as well. And it all worked together to meet my own needs and my community needs. And those two avenues gave me a sustainable, balanced, and full life of giving and receiving care. Right now, I still can't touch alcohol. I still need to be medicated. And I still need to be mindful of my symptoms. Otherwise, I'll spiral right back to that place again. And you can tell where I was spiraling to. The consequence of all this is that the lack of community maintenance and coherence, if I don't keep up these skills, the consequence is self destruction. And you'll see this story for recovery applied over and over. You'll see this community building story over and over. Sometimes a person only needs meditation, and sometimes a therapy or two will help. And sometimes the person needs a long, prolonged study in multiple ways of coping in their life to heal. And when I say heal, it's not like, oh, you take a vaccine and you're healed. It's more of a way of life that heals faster than it decays. Community care and self care are inseparable. This is the next section: how to self care. The workflow for meeting a need. Every action you currently have meets a need. So if you take an action you don't like about yourself and find the list of needs it meets, is this action something you want to change? If yes, we continue. And if no, accept that we're choosing this action as part of our identity and that we choose where it leads 3 years from now. So if you decide to change this action, what are other actions from around all cultures and all periods of times that meet this same need in a more sustainable manner? And we make a list and experiment and record the effects of sincerely attempting that action. And then we repeat until we have a sense of how each different action fits that need. And then we just repeat this for all sustainable actions. It it's simple. It's what you come back to when you're overwhelmed. What are needs? These are the biggest ones you'll encounter in your personal journey when you're helping yourself and others. And this is more of a balanced stool than it is a hierarchy. No one need sits at the top. Even your physical survival doesn't sit at the top. It's possible within all these other needs. Because if you don't have like happiness, then no matter how physically safe you are, it's not going to lead to a healthy, balanced life. So the needs are physical survival, like food, rest, health, safety, certainty, happiness, connection, community, expression, autonomy, and purpose. And each of these needs is important. Balance is the key word, not prerequisites. Even one out of balance or missing, and the other strain over compensating. I stay away from Maslow's hierarchy of needs because he stole that from the Six Sigma people. So these needs are a little different when it comes to, they're more, I guess, philosophical in their sense, but still just as important. And they're going to operate as a starting point. You have your own list of needs that are important to you. You can change them. This is just a starting point that is simple enough for us to come back to when overwhelmed. And then how to community care. We make a list of our values. We make a list of skills and knowledge that we're good at. And then we identify skill gaps and knowledge gaps that our community needs. And then we fill them. And then we make a list of the needs of people around you. And then you fill them. And then you make a list of things you can't do or won't do. And write that down so you know where your own boundaries are. Like, I can't do overnights when trying to help people with mental health crises, but some people can do overnights really easily. Exercise those skills in your personal community. And this part's optional, but it helps in retention. You teach your skills and you deepen them, which means either for the public on the internet or for your own personal library, you create content that's written, video, arts on your best skills and knowledge so they can reach others. We grow in tolerating discomfort and notice when resentment and frustration pop up. We take care of ourselves and balance that with the discomfort of community maintenance and growth. So this is the little essay I wrote. Some of you might have these fantasies, these visualizations and anxieties where you vividly picture your house on fire as you're driving home, and you picture all your animals dying, and you picture everything you've worked for going up in flames, and your family dying. And maybe you're plagued by these visions in other ways, where you imagine yourself vividly going to jail, or you imagine yourself vividly being executed by an authoritarian regime. If the brain is capable of these things, it's capable of the extreme opposites. I take responsibility for fixing this problem and for the contributions I made to make that problem a thing. Sure, living in a society where spirituality is reduced to mere Christianity, or if you're ever feeling lonely, just talk to Jesus. Those are things. Those are the ways I was raised, in fact. So it would be true in the literal sense to say that my parents started this problem for me, society started this problem for me, but here in my life, from my perspective, they're not responsible for its solution. I take responsibility for its solution and for perpetuating as long as I did, for deeming their solution inadequate, because that's what I did. And it's not sole responsibility, it's not blame, it's not shame. It's there's work to be done, so let's get to work. And instead of solving it, I used to ignore it and I let the problems fester. I let that problem of connection to something greater fester, and I took responsibility for the effects I caused my addiction, trying to fill the hole of connection and trying to fill that gaping hole that was in my heart. I was passive and I let a lot of things happen to me. I didn't make an active choice in my life. I was cruel. I used cruelty and control as a way to form connection and make connections happen. I was naive. I saw skill gaps in my life and knowledge gaps, and I did not aim to remedy them. If I remove that blame from myself and from others, And it was taking such a long time where I just blamed my parents and, of course, society for everything. If you look to blame somebody, there's no shortage of people who will readily accept your blame to keep you stagnant where you are and say, yeah, sure, why not? Once you remove that blame, some people do this through forgiveness. Some people say, hey, I forgive you, society. Hey, I forgive you, self. Forgive you, parents. And what's left after all that blame is just you. And if you want to reject the way your parents formed connections and had their needs met and use their skills, your responsibility after self destruction is to create that life for yourself that meets those needs. Your agency remains, your autonomy remains. How do I want to fulfill my needs if I reject my parents and the way they met? So, what's left? Agency and autonomy. Memory and truth, I don't really trust those because my memory has lied to me in the past. And I only really trust what's most recently there and what I see around me. Events are long gone. I don't remember. I only remember the meaning I made from them. The actual truth is long gone. There might be accuracies and inaccuracies. And how do I go forth knowing that my brain tells me half lies and half truths when I can't trust it, but I need it to live well? If the points up, if the points are made up and the winner doesn't matter, what do I do then? Well, I still have some agency and freedom now. And that's the good brain. That's the good part of having a brain that half works is you can choose what to make it work for. So, for recap, my parents gave me spiritual skills and meeting my needs. I rejected them in the same way that you reject your shadow. Like you can't leave your shadow. And then I got addicted, and in that addiction, the shadow crept up. I blamed my parents. And then when I got to my late 20s, I forgave everyone and started meeting my needs in creative ways, original ways for my family, and relying on not just psychological evidence based ways, but also ancient spirit technologies to meet my needs, such as divination, tarot, dream reading, meditation. And meditation is broad. It can be a labeling meditation, yoga, meditations in Taoism. If there was a well documented series of spiritual techniques, I would study them and try them out to see what they did in my life. And I learned how to ask for my community to help, meet in small ways, where a hug would help more than a trip to the psych ward. And in my 30s, which are now about half over, I learned to meet my needs using spiritual techniques and relational techniques instead of harboring this resentment that made me feel this way of being in pain and numbing myself and self destruction. I used self destruction to try meeting my needs. And then I saw the future. I saw 5 years from now, where was I heading? Nowhere I wanted to be. So, through by gentle day to day corrections, I was able to get to a point in my life where the needs are mostly met and I can meet the needs of others. And I have creative expression and autonomy in my life now. Does this mean I'm cured of like every illness? Lies. I still have my diagnosis. I'm still affected by them. They still disrupt my life. And maybe the symptoms are worse now than they ever were in my 20s. And maybe they needed to be to make me change my life. That whole you don't change your life until it gets worse type deal. But what I say on the whole is my life is better and my needs are more met and the community around me is more met.